It's sad to say it, but someone's always going to be crying. I mean, you don't have enough hands. You can't get to each baby fast enough. And part of the hardest being a mom, who wants to do a great job, is you just have to realize that you can't be everywhere at every moment.
Hey guys, this is part 2 of my interview with Pam Munoz, our operations manager here at Mommy Knows Best. If you missed part 1, I highly recommend you go back and watch that one first. She's talking all about finding out she was pregnant with mono twins, and she shares her whole birth story in the last episode, so I really recommend you check that one out. This week she talks about after birth with her twins, the time in the NICU, breastfeeding struggles, tips she learned from family and friends, and advice she has for you guys watching today. So without further ado, here's Pam, part 2.
And so after the twins were born, they both had to be in the NICU, one longer than the other. So how did you deal with, so a lot of moms get stressed with, having your baby in the NICU has got to be like the hardest thing, going home without a baby.
Worst feeling in the world.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
seriously.
how did you deal with that those first, few weeks?
So it was really hard. What I will say is that if you do have a baby by cesarean, or if you do have a baby in the NICU, stay in the hospital as long as possible. Normally when you have a baby naturally, whether it's vaginally or it's, they tell you, stay for a day or two, usually until you can go to the bathroom, and then they kind of push you out of there. If you have a baby who stays in the NICU, they kind of give you permission to stay longer, I think, just because you need to do more. Right away they came in and set me up with the hospital grade nursing pumps, and they had me down there every 2 hours for skin to skin contact. The hard part with us is that when you have preemies, they're going to be tiny, but ours were so little and their little faces were so small that they couldn't even nurse. I kept trying all these different nipple shields to try to make your nipple from a normal size thing into like a pencil tip, so it can fit in the baby's tiny mouth. And it was just so difficult, especially when you have 2 babies, and there's nurses helping you and holding. And I had never had any issues nursing, and I didn't have any problems with milk supply or milk flow. It's just the fact that they were so little. So before I left the hospital, that's kind of when my husband and I talked to my mom, of course. I'm the oldest of tons of cousins, so I kind of talked to all my aunts and relatives in the family too, and they said, why don't you just try pumping to exclusively bottle feed. So when I was there, even then we had to get the teeniest, tiniest preemie nipples with the slowest flow so that they didn't choke. So, that was a huge transition from my first daughter, who I just joked she was, a chow hound. She would feed on demand whenever, she would eat food as early as they recommended. She was eating food, she was nursing, she was doing it all. But with the twins, I could tell it was going to be a completely different path. So I started pumping every 2 hours when I was in the hospital with them, and then I continued that when I went home, which is really difficult. It's like you have a newborn at home, but you don't have any of that joy. You don't have the smell, you don't have the touch, you don't have the look. It's, I would read books in the middle of the night while I was hooked up to the pump, and just the next morning I would bring in all the milk that I had, and they would stick it in the freezer so they had it for the babies. I ended up donating a ton of the milk. I brought a ton back home when they got out. So yeah, it was a huge ordeal. But in the end, I think it kind of prepared me a little bit too for having them both home and just being so busy. Up until then, I had a 1-year-old, and she was awesome. She was great. She was a great baby. She was a great toddler. Very smart, caring, compassionate, a really good listener. She wasn't mischievous. That's why in the beginning we were like, should we really do this again? We were hit the jackpot.
Right. What are the chances we'll get another? Yeah,
exactly. So, the thing that I would say that was the hardest balance was that when I was at the hospital, I wasn't with my toddler. And when I was with my toddler, I wasn't with the newborns. And it was this juggling act of who needs me more.
Yeah.
Once I started dropping my milk off at the hospital, yes, the twins needed me because I was their mom, but they also had an entire team each. And plus volunteers who would come in to be there for them. And my daughter had my husband and my parents and my family members. So that was a very, I always felt guilty for not being with someone. The other thing was that the twins didn't come home at the same time. So I was able to bring Lulu home, and then Addie had to stay there for another week. So then I was home with a toddler and a newborn who totally needed me, and I had another newborn at the hospital who still needed me too. So then I was leaving 2 to be with 1, or leaving 1 to be with 2, and Oh, it was just a
No,
nightmare.
Never felt like it was all like in one place.
No, I always felt guilty for not being somewhere. And that was
Yeah.
hard too. Like the mom guilt is real for sure. No matter, you're doing your best, you're doing as much as possible.
One of the things that the nurses did tell me though was that when you have your twins, your other sibling will just naturally, no matter what you do, start to feel left out. So one of the things that they advised was that whenever you do something special with the twins, and by special it just meant that would take my actual undivided attention, like nursing or feeding them even, do something special for your toddler as well that's along the same lines. So if I was going to be bathing and dressing the twins, she said do something fun, like maybe get an outfit out that your daughter hadn't seen before and have her change into that, or new pajamas or something fun. Because, you know, she was 1.5. She could do a lot on her own. She still needed mommy, of course, but, you know, if I was going to sit down and feed the twins, they suggested I get a cool little lunch box or like a treasure chest so I could have a snack in for my daughter. Like, okay, snack time. So she got to participate as well too. And she was a really good big sister in that she always wanted to help. You know, she would come over and help with binkies or bring me diapers or, you know, rub. The hardest part with twins too is that you just don't have enough hands. You know, when you have one baby, you could hold the baby and you could still be cooking, cleaning, on the phone, doing anything you need to do. When you have twins, you're kind of stuck. And then when you have twins and another baby, you literally run out of arms. So... And it was nice too. I had quite a few friends who had twins throughout their lives. Some recently, you know, some in years previous. But a lot of them told me something that I didn't believe at first. And they all said, whatever you do for one baby, do it for the second baby, whether they need it or not. And I'm coming from never wake a sleeping child, only give the baby what they need type of mentality. And I thought, what? If one baby needs a diaper change, why would I change the second baby's diaper? If one daughter tells me that she's hungry and she's crying and fussy, why would I wake up the other to feed her? And I thought, oh, these ladies are crazy. After about 6 days, I realized what they were talking about, because you would feed one baby and put that baby down and just sit down, and guess what? The second would wake up and want the same thing. You would change one baby's diaper and sit down, and within a few minutes, the next baby would need it. And it would just, I mean, they're identical twins. They were on the same schedule within maybe 10 minutes of one another. And then I started to realize that I was spending entire days just doing baby things. Which is fine, but I'm also still a wife, and I'm still a mother to another daughter, and I'm still a human. So I really wasn't getting any time for myself. I would go and make something to eat, and a baby would cry, so I would put it down. You can't nurse if you're not eating and drinking, if you're not taking care of yourself. And I know the whole sleep thing kind of goes out the window for the first few months, but if you're not getting more than an hour of sleep at a time, you're not helping anyone. So I told my husband, okay, let's try it for 2 days. And if after 2 days there's a marked difference, we're going to stick with it. So if one baby would wake up in the night, I would change her diaper and get her ready to eat. My husband would do the same. Second baby, we'd feed them both. Done. And after like half of a day, I realized I gained an extra 2 hours back today, just in having these smaller breaks where I could spend some time with my toddler, or take a shower, or, you know, God forbid, make myself a sandwich and eat it at the same time. You know, little things that you just kind of take for granted. So from that point on, they're always on the same schedule.
Moms of twins, definitely pay attention to that, because I know you've told me this before, and I think that's such a awesome tip, because I know we have a lot of moms watching and a lot of moms in the group that are expecting twins right now, so that is awesome. So what other tips do you have for either new moms of twins or moms that are currently expecting twins?
So if you're expecting twins and you don't have other children yet, just be prepared for the fact that you're going to need 2 of pretty much everything. When our twins were first born, we did have them in the same crib until they were big enough to start to roll over on their own, just because then I had one monitor on the crib and I could see them both. But you'll need 2 cribs, 2 car seats, 2 swings, 2 boppies, 2 of everything you might need, because you're not just doing it for one, you're doing it for 2 babies at the same time. So to a lot of parents who, you know, don't have any children and are starting with 2, that's kind of daunting. You know, a crib is $1,000 in some cases. Well, I need 2. A car seat's a couple $100, and I need 2. So what we tried to do, thankfully we had an older daughter, so we got to reuse a lot of her things because they were only a year old. But what we tried to do was be as mindful and resourceful and versatile as possible in our choices. They make a lot of car seats that are super cool, in that it's the baby carrier, and then it just clicks into a base in the car. So I didn't have to buy 4 separate car seats to have 2 for my car and 2 for my husband, or maybe for grandma and grandpa. I just got the extra bases, the extra extra pieces. And then that would also fit into the stroller. So I had one stroller, and then Grandma and Grandpa would have a stroller, whoever helps you out. So it was nice to just give it some thought in advance on how you can spread your money and resources as much as possible and not go broke before the baby even comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
the other
awesome.
thing too, when you have twins, is it's sad to say it, but someone's always going to be crying. I mean, you don't have enough hands. You can't get to each baby fast enough. And part of the hardest being a mom, who wants to do a great job, is you just have to realize that you can't be everywhere at every moment. If you're giving one baby a bath or changing one diaper, the other baby wants you too. And all they know how to do is cry to tell you that they need something. And you're the detective to figure it out. So don't be too hard on yourself. Babies will not die from crying. They're not going to be crying for 10 minutes. They might be crying for 1 or 2. Same thing, every time you go sit down to go to the bathroom, guess what? Someone's going to wake up and want you. And they're going to cry for that minute until you're done and you can wash your hands and go help them. But it's not going to be the end of the world.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
And I always like to end interviews with a couple of fun thinking questions, I
okay.
call them. So if you could have a billboard made today where you share one tip with moms everywhere, what would you have it say?
Ooh, that's a good one. Let me think.
I know you've shared so many awesome tips. So I'm like,
something I haven't said. I think it would probably say, be the superhero your children already think you are. It's really neat when you look through your child's eyes, especially as they get a little older and they start drawing and telling their teachers, this is a picture of me and my mom doing this. They see you as this amazing person who can do no wrong. So why let them down? Do everything you can to just fill that mold. And obviously it's not going to be perfect. There's times when you lose your temper, or you don't have time, or you're tired, or they're not feeling good. But why not try? Just try to be the best you can for them. Get down to their level. Listen to what they're telling you. Give them hugs and let them stop hugging you. That's something that I was told when I was little, and it's so true. A child will stop hugging you when they're ready. And guess when that is? Never. Never stop hugging you. Just they love you so much. So just be.
I love that. I want to put that on a quote somewhere. You should have it in your office. I love that. That's so cute.
All right, guys, that was part 2 with Pam from Mommy Knows Best. I hope you enjoyed learning about her story. We've been trying to get her on here for a while, and I was so excited when she finally agreed to come on. So thanks, Pam, for coming on the show. And because of her coming on, we got so many questions about twins, moms that were about to be twin moms or have twins in the family, so they're just curious. So next week we added a bonus episode with Pam, and it's going to be straight Q&A about twins. So really excited for that one. So we'll see you guys next week for that one. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Mom Talks with Krista. If you're not yet subscribed, go ahead and click on the subscribe button. It should be down here somewhere. We release new episodes every single Wednesday. And if you're not following us yet, be sure to follow us at Mommy Knows Best on Instagram. And remember, if you're watching this and doubting yourself, you are a great mom. So thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next week.